Welcome, everybody, back to the Amy Barn for Spartan Up the podcast. On my right, we've got Peter Borden, who has been standing in for a couple of these, taking Joe's place. We've got Dr. Johnny Waite. We've got Sephra, the seed queen, over there on the far right.
Seed huntress, actually.
Seed huntress.
I like seed queen.
And Marion running the show behind the camera. All right, we've got a great interview today. We've got a personal friend and a personal hero of mine, a young man named Phil Randazzo, who just out of his own heart, out of his own goodness, started an enterprise called American Dream U. This guy, through just watching veterans come home and thinking they needed some help, decided to just do it on his own, and then realized he couldn't do it all on his own and asked others to help. He's got some great lessons, and he's a great American, a great patriot, and I think you're going to learn a lot just from listening to him.
Absolutely. Nothing more to say. Let's go to Phil.
We are here for Spartan Up Podcast. I don't even know where we are because we've been on 3 airplanes with Phil Randazzo, who runs American Dream U, who we met a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, in California. We found out we are connected through an uncle, a cousin, somebody that's connected to my family and his family in Little Italy. So anyway, we're cousins or something. I don't know what we are.
Yeah. I think we connected the dots, and I think we're definitely related
cool.
there. Yeah.
So then this should be easy. The whole podcast is about getting people up off the couch. Yeah, you and I are sitting on a couch, and healthy and motivated and to become successful. So you've been a success in your life, certainly around business, family, everything. So let's dive in. Let's go way back. How'd you get into business? What do you do?
Yeah. So it's been an interesting ride. So we have a lot of similarities, right? So I mean, besides being related, my father was born in Sicily. I know you have family from Italy. We're connected, and I really learned from him. He came right off of the boat from my father fought for the Italian army for Mussolini, right? And if you didn't fight for him, they would hang you in the streets. And so they jumped on a boat, traveled to New York, and that's what they did. I mean, they knew there was a better opportunity here. So I learned for sure. An immigrant. I grew up with immigrant family. Right.
Hard to replicate, right? Like your kids are not growing up with that immigrant mentality.
No, and my kids are great, and they're doing really well. But they kind of grew up in a bubble, right? Because of a little bit of success I had.
Sure.
They didn't work 3 jobs, and I delivered newspapers at night. So going back.
Wait, let's stop there because this is a big one for me. So what do we do for our kids? That like, how do we have to ship them to Eastern Europe, toughen them up?
It's a great question. So this has caused a lot of maybe disagreement with my wife and I. Right? I want to toughen them up. Because that's what I did. Sure. Right? I mean, I remember going to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, picking up papers, and delivering them from 3 in the morning until 7.
I love it.
And then going and working a 100% commission job during the day. And then I wrote parole and probation reports in the afternoon. And my wife had a daycare in our apartment and worked for the school district for 3 hours.
But that's what you had to do.
Listen. Right. So I don't, Joe. It's a tough question. So I think I've raised some good kids, but I think they've definitely been sheltered in a bubble. But they're all good, hardworking kids right now. But that's a tough situation.
Yeah. So you come out of that, and then you started to build some of your own businesses.
Yeah, so and you heard my story a little bit in Japan. I wasn't a great student. I couldn't sit at a desk and across and just learn that way. I just didn't learn that way. So I struggled academically in school, and then I discovered I had to create my own atmosphere, which was a business, and that was the only way that I was going to make it.
Right.
Yeah.
And what business? What did you do?
So at first it was an insurance practice, which was boring, but it provided some income for my family. I had 3 kids, all within 5 years, and then about every handful of years I would get bored, and I would just start a new business. So I started a medical billing company, changed the way doctors get paid.
Nice.
Started buying some land in Las Vegas right at the perfect time.
Wow.
And built a whole bunch of commercial properties, commercial stuff. And then in 2001, 9/11 really affected me, Joe. And I know I have family in New York. You have family in New York, and you worked in that whole area. I felt like I had to do more, and business wasn't that success wasn't, or whatever little success I had. So I started in 2003 right after the Iraq War started, this foundation, a private foundation to help the military. The first.
And was that American Dream U in 03?
At first, it was called Defending Freedom. And what we did was we helped the wounded, their families, spend a lot of time at Walter Reed, Bethesda, Brooklyn. I mean, these guys were coming back pretty severely wounded in those days. I mean, Walter Reed, they couldn't fit all the wounded men and women there. And then after about 10 years, we evolved into helping with the transition because less guys were coming back wounded.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right. So first you weren't in the military.
I wasn't. No, I like you. I have military envy.
Yeah.
No.
So there's two screens in front of you.
Yeah. So the Iraq War's on one, and the anti-war protests on the other. And I was coaching a sports team at the time, and I'm going, man, there's 18, 19-year-old kids over there fighting, and they have to watch all this stuff going on. They're worried about their kids, that kind of stuff. So I looked at my wife and I said, I'm going to have a pro-troops rally. Rolls her eyes. Whatever, Phil. Right? Do that thing. Within 5 days, had 4,000 people come to my parking lot. There was a lot of pent-up frustration about what's going on with everything, and that just sparked me. So from that moment on, it's actually March 23rd. I don't know if today's the 23rd or the 22nd. As we're filming this, I had this pro-troops rally and just kind of rallied behind, these parents. These poor parents are, terrified of what's going on. So, and then it evolved to what you attended in Japan is bringing entrepreneurs, business leaders to share with those that are in the process of leaving the military.
And giving them some guidance.
Let them know what's possible.
Right.
Because they're surrounded by people who show up on time, who are good leaders, who work hard, who are resilient.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that the civilian world's kind of craving that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how's it going?
It's going great. So we've done 42, 43 events. About 14,000 people have attended.
Wow.
It's been amazing. We've had a lot of people that you've interviewed on your podcast have come to speak for us. Yeah. So, it's and what I see with Spartan, and we're doing a lot of stuff with Spartan now. We love what Spartan is. And
good. You're going to come out. You're going to come out to the World Championship. I want to bring a bunch of military folks. Could do like a whole VIP tent. So if you're in the military, get in touch with Phil Randazzo, and we're going to bring you out there.
Yeah. So I just want to, talk to you a little bit about how
you didn't know you were doing. Yeah, I just put you on.
I knew. I knew that. Yeah, we're excited about that. Listen, we're big. I mean, military loves Spartan. Okay. I mean, I haven't gone anywhere where people haven't loved Spartan, and you were a big hit, when you spoke. But I mean, I want to get to the point in my life, I'm 48 years old, right? I mean,
you look good.
I'm in the second half of my life, and so I want to, I want to play stronger. I want to be more focused. I want to complain less, and I want to have deeper relationships, and I want to be part of that dot. Meaning, I know when people do Spartan, I've talked to people who've done Spartan, they're like, man, I got diagnosed with diabetes, I got recruited to do this, I was overweight, and boy, Spartan changed my life.
Got them healthy,
Changed my life. And so I want to be that dot in someone's life, not me personally, but the organization.
To motivate them and get them going. And it was fun when we did the talk in Japan, so count me in. I want to do more of those. Yeah. Again, if you're watching this or listening, I guess unlimited amount of speakers you could use, so if somebody's out there and is talented, right, get in touch with you.
Speakers, coaches, mentors, the whole thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so where are you on this journey? You said you wanted to get an RV or something?
Yeah, so, I want to take and I'm not comparing this to any type of military deployment, but, do a 2-year kind of stint and spend 6-8 weeks at some of these big military installations, Fort Bragg, Benning, Hood, and really dig deep with these guys, bring in guys like you, and do, a full day of resiliency, do a full day of, what's your mission, your focus driven. And then bring this piece of equipment, which you tried yesterday, called the Vasper, which we got one into Burke Army Medical Center. That's just been a game changer. It's helped people increase their testosterone, their sleep, everything. I know you said you slept really well last night.
And I called my wife 12 times, so.
Yeah. There you go. So, no, listen, we appreciate what you're doing, what Spartan's doing, and we want to get more people involved in the whole mission of what you're doing.
I hope you're not sitting still while you listen. If you are, you better get a burpee break in.
You've been a CEO across a whole bunch of industries. Do you work out? What do you do?
Yeah, so I do. I do work out, and I appreciate the compliment before you said I look good in this shirt, right? So I have to dress appropriately to look like I'm in good shape. No, it's, I've lost about close to 30 pounds in the last probably 6 months, and it's a game changer for me. It's a game changer for me, and I know with Spartan, I mean, that's your game changers for literally millions of people that can go back and connect that, and just training for it, right? I mean, it's almost.
Well, how do you fit? You run businesses. How do you fit it in?
Yeah, so this morning, I woke up at 4 in the morning.
Nice.
Right. I typically don't wake up at 4 in the morning, but I knew I was going to come see you. And so you were my accountability partner, even though you didn't know you were my accountability partner.
Nice.
And I think that's a big deal for CEOs. And listen, you've talked to a ton of CEOs. A lot of CEOs aren't healthy.
No.
They're not healthy.
And that shouldn't be, right? Because if you want to play your A game, which you have to run a business, you're going to do better if you're healthy.
Right. Yeah, and it's.
So what do you do? What do you do? What's your thing? You just wake up earlier? Is that the message?
So it's a little bit earlier, and I think it's a calendar thing. And I literally have set ground rules for my office. Do not schedule a call, a meeting, anything before 9:30 in the morning.
Got it.
And that's my time. And typically I'll wake up and I'll focus on one thing and get one thing accomplished.
Yeah.
And then I'm at the gym.
Got it.
I'm at the gym. And if you schedule that and you tell your office, you're the CEO. Right? I mean, you should be able to tell your team when to schedule stuff.
Yeah. Damn it, I got to do that. I got to do that because they own me. I don't own them.
Right. Yeah. And I only just did this recently, so I'm not this schedule genius kind of person. But, so it's getting in the calendar, accountability, right? Maybe either publicly saying you're going to do something and then do it. I mean, signing up for a Spartan race is the absolute perfect example.
You got to be signed up for. That's my philosophy. You got to be signed up for something. If you're not signed up for something, it's hard to get going.
Right. Yeah, and so.
And then having a buddy. I like that idea. Having somebody that holds you accountable.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my team member here, Jess, and I've been hearing yoga. Get to yoga. At my age, right? Get to yoga. And I said, I'm going to meet you at yoga tomorrow morning. And so I think she thought I wasn't going to show up, and I showed up for hot yoga.
Ah, nice.
There I am, this big kind of guy in there with like these 5'3" women doing yoga.
Yeah.
But it felt great, and so
that's why you look good. You're glowing. Nice.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, it's every university study, everything. And I know you did the VASPER yesterday, and it's everything from sleep. I know there's these people running around and they're like, I can survive on 3-4 hours. Like, bullshit, you can't do. You can't be focused. You can't. Your attention can't be there. And how we eat.
Yeah.
And I know you have a history with, you were eating gluten your whole life, right? We're Italians.
Yeah.
An appetizer was a bowl of lasagna.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we started with anything.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And we're not aware of some of these things that can take control of our focus. And that's a big thing for me is I think as I've lost a lot of weight, 30 pounds. I was 255, right? Now I'm down to about 220. I get more done. I sleep a lot better. Yeah. And that's been a game changer.
And you're able to do hot yoga before the.
I'm able to do hot yoga
before the office even opens.
Right. So so I think it's really important to, as a CEO, you got to own your calendar. Yeah. You really have to do it, and own your schedule.
So big takeaway for the viewers is what were the secrets to success? You've been successful enough to take some time off and do this great thing, and plus you're teaching how to be successful. So give us some takeaways.
Yeah, so in all honesty, I think I've made a ton of mistakes with my family. I was chasing success, money, all those kind of things. That's a game you just can't win, in my opinion. Right. I mean, I'm never going to have as much money or success as someone else. And it was
There's always somebody bigger.
Always someone bigger, always someone more successful. And I just want to simplify my life, have more. So I'm teaching that, with this whole program. So I'm the wrong guy to ask because...
No, but that's a message. That's a message, right? Sometimes we're chasing the wrong thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, people would say I'm there, right? But I don't consider myself there. And that's why, like I said earlier, I want to play a much better second half. To be honest with you, Joe, I got a 25, a 23, and a 20-year-old. And I know your kids are younger than that. Yeah. Man, I was a dick. I was a dick as a dad sometimes, right? Sure. And I could blame
because you were stressed out, right? You were running businesses and...
That was an excuse.
You got to take full responsibility.
Total responsibility. Yeah. And I can say it was my dad who was, this hot-tempered Sicilian guy, and you knew kind of the background where I grew up in. Sure. It was interesting people coming around the place, and so I kind of emulated those. I made some big mistakes, right? So talk about resiliency. My wife being with me for 26 years, that's resiliency. Yeah. And, I hope, and again, I'm the wrong person.
We should do a shout-out to all the wives that put up with us for 20-plus years.
Right. And I want to put a shout out to all the wives and husbands who have family members that are deployed, who are taking care of the family unit while they're gone for 6, 8, 12 months. Yeah. So again, I'm hoping to play a better second half, and someone said grandkids are your second chance, right? So I'm hoping my kids have grandkids. So
there's still time with the kids. It's not over.
Listen, thank God my kids turned out the way they did, and I give credit to my wife for that. Yeah. And we have a great relationship. And you met my son, who was over there in Japan with us, and so I get to do a little bit of work with him. But
Good boy.
Yeah, he's a great kid, and
but isn't the message there then, don't wait for the second half, right? You could make some changes in the first half. I was lucky. I cleaned swimming pools for all these crazy people back in Queens, and I got to peek into the lives and see what I liked and what I didn't like, what I would take away and believe me, I made a million mistakes. I still make mistakes. I just got to be right 51% of the time is my motto.
Right.
But yeah, you can watch other people, which is part of the reason we do the podcast, right? And you could learn from the mistakes, so you don't have to make the mistakes. So
Right. And I'm obviously a big fan of you, and I was watching the podcast, and so what I've always done in the past was I watch a great interview, right? And you've done some amazing interviews.
Thanks.
And I'm starting now to write down 3 things I can take action on today.
I like
not
that.
Tomorrow,
Right.
not journal about it and throw it away in a closet, but just say. So I encourage all your listeners to go back and
look at
actually
them.
look.
I
at
actually
it.
have somebody going back and doing every one of them, and we're going to put together like for success for dummies.
Right.
And by the way, success isn't defined as having a bunch of money. It's defined as not feeling in the second half like you've got to change what you did in the first, right? Like whether it's a monk, being a mom, being whatever, just being the best you could be.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all the little things that I really sweated with my kids. That looking back, it's like
No big deal.
no big deal.
Like what? Like give me an example.
Man, everything from here I am a horrible student, right? You saw my grades. I barely graduated high school, and I'm telling my kids to study.
Right.
Right. And so it's more of, and so I've been so fortunate. I get to hang out with guys like you.
I'm not much, but go ahead.
You're much, and people in the military, right?
Yeah.
We both had this military envy, and so I've seen all this great leadership. And the most successful ones, they're not talkers. Right? I'll meet some guy and I'll go, oh, that guy seems like he had a successful military career. Oh, well, this guy did this, this, and this. I'm like, he didn't mention any of it.
You know what? I try to teach my kids that. My kids did a race last weekend, and they did very well in the race. And I wouldn't let them take medals. And they didn't understand, like, they got upset about it. And I tried to have that same talk with them. I said, could you imagine how much more powerful it is when your friends see that the medal wasn't important, you guys came, you did your job, and you left. You were fine, you were happy with whatever your performance was. Right. And that's what you're describing. Right?
That defines
no
the
ego,
military.
just
no.
Right? I know what I'm capable of, and
yeah, and I see that with speakers. I see some speakers who just shout out all these great things they've done, and I'm not sure if they've actually done them.
Sure.
And then I hear about speakers that have done certain things, and entrepreneurs and business leaders, and it's like the guy never mentioned that, or the girl never mentioned that.
I think to be successful, to be the person that has something to say, you've probably been punched in the face so much that you're humbled anyway. Right? It's not a straight, easy road.
Oh.
Right? I mean, I'm starting to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I meet a wrestler that would kill you in 3 seconds, right? He's wrestled his whole life. You shake their hand. It's soft. They're nice people. They give you a hug. You wouldn't know this is an Olympic wrestler because they lost matches too.
Right.
So, right? They're humble.
And that's a great point. And I think with the military, we get this all the time, Joe. It's like, hey, listen, I keep hearing about failure. Failure is not an option in our business.
Right.
It's just not an option. And so trying to convey that message to them that losing a fight or this or that is okay as a civilian.
Yeah. Yeah, right, because once they switch over.
Once they switch over. And that's a big mind shift for them.
That's a good point.
It's a big mind shift for them.
Yeah. There are many times you're supposed to pivot, and that's a hard thing to learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been, listen, I'm trying to be as humble as possible in my life because I haven't done a fraction of what I think I can do.
Well, you're crushing it. I mean, not a lot of people would give up everything they're doing and go out and do this. So awesome that you're doing it. We're going to support it. We're going to get this thing out there and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Joe.
No problem.
You got it.
What a good guy. I mean, identifying that niche of saying, like, military veterans come back, they need to transition into the business world. I'm very familiar with that ecosystem because my twin brother, Jesse, has Tactivate, his company, which does the exact same thing. It, like, meets at the cross-section of entrepreneurship and special operations veterans. And it's amazing because...
They're very similar.
Very similar, yeah, because, I mean, veterans have, they are so highly trained and have this absolutely phenomenal skill set that as civilians, a lot of times we don't even understand or have any baseline to understand what it is that they're capable of and have been trained in. And then the same thing happens is, I believe in the military, there's very little training in regards to business and entrepreneurship in that startup world. So I think it's, and maybe I'm wrong, but from my understanding, it's really helpful to have this type of an organization that can facilitate that type of transition, because veterans are the greatest assets that our country has, you know?
Yeah, well, listen, I've been fortunate enough to speak a couple times at the American Dream University, American Dream U. It's not university, it is U. So
Look at his shirt in case you
and
get
I'm wearing the
confused.
shirt. I'm modeling the shirt right here. But anyway,
Great model.
what I tell people is that this is the best time in our history, or the military's history, to get out of the military. And that kind of takes some people back a little bit. But it's because exactly what you were just saying. When I originally got out of the military, out of the Marine Corps in 1982, there was nobody standing around to shake my hand or to thank me or to give me a job or to give me a scholarship to go to school or teach me a trade. There was a couple friends of my father who said, hey, good job, pat me on the back, that kind of stuff. But now organizations and foundations and corporations have all understood that, and they are lining up to help the servicemen. And the services themselves have identified the need, and they run these programs, these transition programs called TAP, that make it mandatory for you to attend before you're allowed out to help you with the transition. But these organizations, especially like American Dream U, Tactivate, invaluable what they can do, because for when Joe has spoken at American Dream as well, corporations are looking for people, you said skill sets, but they're also looking for people with drive, ambition, grit, resiliency. Joe gives the corporations that brief, right? When you go to the Army and give the brief, you kind of skip to the end state. They've already got it. They've already demonstrated it. It's already stamped in them. So, but for a guy just to see this on his own, and like I said, to be a real estate guy out in Vegas and just decide he's going to now travel the country, visiting bases, and put together, as we talked many other times, these other guys, putting together a group of entrepreneurs that all buy in on their own money to go and train and help transitioning soldiers. Just a wonderful, wonderful endeavor.
One of the really cool things that I found was that he said, I spent the first half of my life building my business and everything was great. And I looked around and saw a lot of other people were starting to ramp down. The second half of their life is going to be easy. They're going to coast. And he said, I want to wrap up. I want the second half of my life to be the most important part of my life. And he saw a need. And again, it was a selfless need. It wasn't just how do I build my own business. It was I now want to go and contribute. So instead of working less and taking it easy, he's working more than ever, but loving it. And it's not a grind anymore because it's something he really believes in. And I thought that was a really good lesson for anybody. You know, Joe mentioned in their conversation, you don't have to wait for the second half of your life. You can always make the changes now. But, you know, just the idea that looking forward, why is it that societally, a lot of people have bought in this idea that there should be this decline, that it's all about slowing
because
down?
Because
that gets easy.
The golden years,
Right? It gets
exactly.
easy.
You've earned
Coasting.
it. You've earned it, right?
yeah.
I mean, that's the mindset.
Yeah, but how much more inspiring is it to actually look and say, what can I get even more excited about in the second half of my life? Ideally, look beyond yourself. Where can I make a contribution? And Phil's just a great example of that. You look at the energy this guy has and the enthusiasm he has. You know, there was another podcast that another interview where he was running alongside the guy being interviewed on the treadmill, and didn't slow down a bit. That guy's in great shape. He's excited about life, and I think a lot of it is because he's doing something for somebody else.
Yeah, and it may have something to do. I talk a lot about DNA, but it was fascinating that he and Joe, you know, you'd have to have a family tree kind of thing to figure it out. But they had the same uncle, which would, I assume, then make them the cousins.
Yeah, something like that.
But they didn't know it until they had met the first time and started talking about it.
Pretty neat.
I mean, so
That'd be a great
something
family
within
tree
that
to look
family
at.
tree makes people this entrepreneurial spirit, right? But Phil talks about that he had multiple businesses, like many guys have talked about, and how he tried and failed or had to keep grinding it out, right? And then even when he's successful and he decides to open up American Dream U, it's at a cost. And we've talked about that before. He's married. He has children. You know, all of that money and all of that energy and stuff could be going to them, right?
Yep.
But in fact, he's taking probably financially from them, but is rewarding them more with a better education of what it means to help others.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
How many people he helped? You know him.
How many people? It says on his website. I mean, I would say thousands.
It's in
because
the range of
jumping in.
15,000. Yeah.
It has
incredible.
It has become mandatory on some of the bases to attend his course, which is normally like a one-day event. Plus, really, first time I saw it, shocking. He gets a list of or a group of entrepreneurs together, and they run a Shark Tank. And he lets each guy get up 2 minutes or so in front of them, present their idea, and you've got a panel of 4 or 5 guys, generally vets, who have done very well financially in the world, and they say yes, no, maybe, and they're giving out money right on the spot to some of these young soldiers. I think to the tune of one of theirs that Joe talked about was like $250,000 they had available
To help the soldiers.
to help the soldiers with their ideas, right? You know, right again,
Fantastic.
right
It's a big
that
footprint.
day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
really,
That's a big footprint.
And I like his mission statement. It says, envision, educate, execute. I think that's a really good summary of what he's teaching. And I also like when he talked about the concept of owning your own calendar. And he's saying, as a CEO or as someone who's in charge, if you want that time before 9:30, as he said, for yourself, and then he's like, then make that part of the culture of your company. And I think it's like setting up that timeline and how you want the flow to happen. Like in this culture, we all know that we're working out before 5 in the morning here, and that's how this calendar gets set up. But I think it's really interesting to look at your company as like their schedule.
Well, we may know that we're working out before 5, but it still comes as a shock. It's still...
and to clarify what I heard, what Phil was saying, it wasn't that you start at 9. It was that what he says is I'm going to keep my schedule totally within my control until 9. So the idea is he might be up working out, he might be working on his writing, on his reading, on his meditating,
Yoga,
on putting the projects in place that he wants. And what he said is, I'm not going to check an email till 9. I'm not going to take a call till 9, because that's when other people start to take control of your schedule. So when you get that text message and suddenly get jerked over onto that priority,
Other side. And
exactly,
You get busy, sure.
yeah, and so the idea of how much
Peter
you can
knows
accomplish,
that.
how much you can accomplish if you can control your own schedule, and then at some point, obviously, you have to let other people in. But it's interesting, and I love when I see Joe doing these interviews, and sometimes where it challenges some of his ideas,
Right.
And because Joe does a lot of things right, but he's also willing to every now and then go, maybe that is something I could look at.
Ponder that thought for a moment, right?
and not be on email the second your eyes open and dealing with everyone else's stuff is we can all learn, and that's probably
this
something he
whole
came away
podcast-
considering.
The whole podcast started with Joe wondering about things, right?
Other ways to do it,
Other
yeah.
ways to do things, and is he doing it right?
And ask some questions, right?
And asking
Lots of
people who
questions.
have the answers,
And here we
whether
are.
they got it right or wrong.
And here we are, a couple hundred episodes in,
Yeah,
and we're still learning. We'll be learning. What did he say? 500 episodes is the
500.
goal.
Let's go.
I think we're going to blow right through that and still be learning. But I want to mention, if you want to see any of the other
And all of
close to
them.
200 that we've done now, and make sure you see the rest, go to Spartan.com/podcast. Join us on iTunes, YouTube. Be with us every week. We got some great stuff coming up.
Thank you for watching another epic story of success. If you like our message, please share Spartan Up with your friends and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you catch our show, maybe in the woods. Spartan Up is brought to you by Spartan Race. To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com.